Hi, accounting students. In this lesson, we are doing the guided practice for topic 7.1, posting. In order to do this, you're going to, you should already obviously have clicked on the video link to be seeing this video, and you're going to also need the file for the guided practice that's located here. When you open it, you should see something that looks like this. There are two tabs, one with a set of journal entries, and then the second one with blank ledger accounts. So the first thing we need to do before we go too far, just to kind of orient ourselves a little bit, we've got boxes for our account name and the account number, and then we have our entries here. And so instead of seeing everything kind of all in one place across each transaction, here we have all the entries for one account located here, for another account located here, and so on. At the top of our journal page, we have our list of accounts. So we're going to open up or set up our accounts first before we process any transactions. So I have cash for 101, accounts receivable, supplies, my capital account, and my fees earned. So I'm going to order these on my general ledger worksheet in that order. Just make this a little bit bigger, make it easier to see. There we go. So the first one we have is our bank account. So we're going to, actually, let me just check here. So, oh, they've used cash, so we'll use cash, even though we should be using bank. And this is set up as account number 101. Next account we have is accounts receivable S. Randall. So you should be putting in these values into your accounts the way I am here. Next we have our supplies account, which is account number 120. And we have our capital account, and we set these up. The formatting is exactly the same as it would be on the balance sheet. So L Kenya, comma, space capital. This is account number 301. So notice how our account numbers are fitting in with the kinds of charts of accounts that we learned. So we have all these asset accounts in the 100s. We have a capital account in the 300s. And now we have a revenue account, which will be in the 400s. There we go. Okay, so we have our account set up. Now we need to go ahead and do the transactions. Now this can be a little bit tedious, but it's very important to do this very methodically and to do it one line at a time. So essentially what we're going to do is we are looking at this transaction here, but literally we are looking at doing the cash entry first, then the supplies entry, then the capital entry. All right, so a couple things to notice. First of all, our year is 2015. Our first transaction is for May 1st, and we are getting this from the first page of the general journal. All right, so some important information. Now, the fact that this is the first page should indicate or remind or kind of give a clue that this is literally the very first transaction of the business. It's a brand new business, never been any accounting done for it before. All right, so focusing then on our first entry to cash. So May 1st, $100 debit on page 1. So we're going to go to our capital. And so again, like we do with our journal entry, we're going to put our year on the first line, and then we put the month and day on the next line, which is May 1st. Now, the only time we do an explanation on a ledger is when it's an opening entry or when it's a balance forward. So we're going to put in opening entry. Remember the posting reference. This is a combination of the document and the page number from which this came from. It came from our general journal, so we're going to put in GJ, and it was page 1. If it doesn't fit, you can just kind of expand that column just a little bit. All right. We had a debit for that entry. It was for $100, if I recall. Yep. So in my debit column, I'm going to put $100. and I have no balance before. It was zero, so 0 plus $100 debit means that I'm going to have $100 balance, but also I have to think about my debit and credit. So I had 0 to begin with. I've added $100 debit, so I have more debit than I have credit. So that means that my new debit credit indicator is going to be debit, right? Now, before I'm done, it looks like I'm done here, but I'm not really. There's one more step that I have to do, and it's really, really easy to forget. I'm going to take this account number now and use it as like a check mark. Whenever you get done something on a to-do list, you tick it off. So, or stroke it out, whatever you want to do. So we're going to take that 101 and we're going to go back into the posting reference column, and we're going to, again, if it's a little bit narrow, you can just kind of widen it a bit, right? And we're going to put that into the posting reference. So this is now like a cross-reference from one account to the other to make sure that we know where the information went to, and then back again where it came from. All right, so now we have our next entry, which is for supplies. We have a debit for $500. So I'm going to go to my supplies account. Again, this is 2015. So I'm going to type that in. I'm going to put in May 1st. This is the opening entry still, so I can still put in an explanation. It came from General Journal page 1. I had a debit of $500. I had no credit or no balance before, so now I have $500 before. 0 plus 500 is 500. But also, since I have 0 and now I've gone into the debit range, I now have a debit balance just like above. I'm not quite done yet. I have to take my account number, go back to my general ledger page, and I'm going to put that in my account there. All right, now the last one I have for this entry is for my capital account. I have a credit for $600. So I'm going to go back to my ledger accounts. Again, same process as before. Opening entry. This came from my General Journal page 1. I have a debit in this case for $600. I had 0 balance before, so 0 plus 600 is 600. But remember, this is now a credit. I have more credit than I have debit. So my balance indicator is now going to be, for this account at this point, is going to be a credit, right? So pretty straightforward, right? All right, so then my last step then, which is again is really easy to forget, take that account number 301, put that into the posting reference. There we go, perfect. So we're all done that first transaction. The second one now is, again, pretty much the same thing. So we have 3 entries. Differences are, though, that it's on May 3rd now, and these are no longer the opening entries. So when we talk about the opening entry, it's for the business, not for the GL. So, or what we call it is a short form for general ledger. So for instance, this fees earned account, we haven't used it before, but when we go to do it, we can't put in an explanation. Even though it's the first entry for fees earned, this is no longer the opening entry for the business. So we're going to leave it blank. All right, so May 3rd, cash debit entry for $400. So we already have May listed, so we're not going to list it again. We're going to put in our 3 for the 3rd. We're not going to put in any explanation because it's not the opening entry anymore. This is still coming from General Journal page 1. And as you can see, my memory is failing me already. We have, right, a debit for $400. So I'm going to go to my debit column. I'm going to enter in $400. I have $100 debit from before, and now I have $400 debit. The rule is, remember, if it's the same, you add. If they're different, you subtract. So I'm going to always start with my balance, which is debit 100, and I have debit 400. So I'm adding 100 plus 400 equals 500. Since I started with debit and I added more debit, my new balance indicator is still in the debit range. Now I'm going to take my 101 from the account and I'm going to go back to my general journal and I'm going to put in my 101. Now I have accounts receivable for S. Randall, a debit for $200. So I'm going to go locate my accounts for S. Randall. This is for 2015. We haven't had an entry there yet. And we need to put in our May and our third. We have no explanation. It's like, I know that sounds funny. We do not put in an explanation. We have an explanation. We just don't put one in. And then in our posting reference, we're going to put in General Journal 1. We had a debit for $200, I believe it was. Yep, there we go. So $200. I'm going to put that in. And I had a zero balance before, and I have $200. So 0 plus 200 is 200. I had no debit or credit before, and now I have $200 more debit than I did before. So I'm going to add that indicator in. Final step then is now to take the 105, the account number, and put it into my general journal to indicate the cross-reference. Last one I have now is a credit to my fees earned for the total for $600. So I'm going to go to my fees earned account, put in my year because I have no entry there yet, in the May and the month, the day, sorry, the 3rd. This is not an opening entry. It came from General Journal page 1. I have a credit for $600. Now I had zero balance before, and I'm adding $600 worth of credit. So I'm going to have $600 as my balance, and my credit indicator is, or my debit credit indicator is a credit. All right, so that's the end of the guided practice. Your task then, oh, sorry, see, I almost forgot. I got to take my 401 and I got to put it into my general journal, 40. There we go. All right, so your task then is to go through and process these last two transactions. It's going to be pretty much the same, except that you're going to have, with these, something a little bit different to look out for. So far, we have had all debits to cash account, and we had a debit to our accounts receivable. In this case, we're going to have a credit to account receivable and a credit to cash. So since both of those accounts both currently have a debit balance, so let's look at the cash account, for instance. So these both right now, or this account has a debit balance of $500. If you were to post a credit to that account, they would then be opposite. So you would have to take the 500 and subtract off the amount of the credit. If the answer is positive, so if you have more debit than credit, your new balance indicator is going to be a debit. But let's suppose that credit was for $600. In that case, you would have more credit than debit, in which case you would have to put credit as the indicator. And that would be an exceptional balance. That would be kind of weird, but it happens, all right? So your task then is to, again, just complete these last two transactions, all right? Remembering the steps that we've just done, and process them into the ledger accounts on the other sheet. Make sure that you put in your posting references, and then post the link from your Google Doc, your Google Sheet rather, into the Dropbox.